Story points have been around for a couple of decades now. There are countless articles and videos demonstrating how to use them. Many organizations mandate their usage, and teaching them are part of the standard approach for consulting organizations. Any company that's a good agile company is going to teach proper use of story points. For as long as I've known about story points and the associated velocity, there continues to be far too many teams that have incomplete work sprint after sprint. Teams spend endless hours haggling over point estimation and still get it wrong a lot of the time. There's elaborate theater in many teams, and at the end of the sprint, renegotiating story point estimates for work that was harder than anticipated, or splitting incomplete work, or attempting to determine where to place story points. You never do teams re-estimate down work that was easier than expected, right? So I was thinking to myself, the vast majority of the existing podcasts and literature out there fall short of evaluating how useful and effective story points and velocity are within your teams if they're used properly. So let's dig in and learn how to evaluate the usefulness of story points and use your team's data to your advantage. So the original intent of story points was to obfuscate time. Now, to be clear, the easiest way to explain this is if you hired someone to do a professional craft, whether it's painting or window washing or whatever the case may be. Each person would come in with different tools available to them, different skill sets, different knowledge levels, and as a result, it would take them different amounts of time to get the same exact job done. So if you had your senior developer working on something, it would take a lot less time than your junior developer, but does that mean the points change? Absolutely not. Points should be associated with size, not with time. So when I hear people saying, oh, we're estimating using ideal days, or we're adding 3 points because Johnny's working on it, or we're taking off 2 points because Susie's working on it doesn't make sense because it's still an 8-point story. So story points should be used to estimate relative size, but you're not expected to pivot or adjust the stories based on time. So many people have taken steps to create elaborate techniques. I love Mike to death. Planning poker, big one. While in conversation, I promote a very useful tool to create a shared understanding of the work, it also is not necessary for a team to discuss individual upcoming efforts in an effort to adjust the story points, if that makes sense. So here's an experiment. Export your team's data from whatever tool you're using, Jira, Azure DevOps, whatever it is, for all completed items in the last 90 to 120 days. In the export, include the date the work started, the date the work was completed, and what the story point estimate was. In lean terms, you're looking to calculate cycle time. The date the work started, date work was completed, date started plus 1, and date completed minus the date work started plus 1. Yeah, that's right. Using the dates. So cycle time per item and its story points estimates are the only things you need. But if the team is also using different work item type categories, that could also be useful so you could see it across different types. So basically what you're doing is you're creating a cumulative flow diagram. How long did the story stay in a certain state, like in progress? Use a tool, like something simple, Excel or numbers, to export or to sort the story point estimate from low to high, and you should wind up with a grouping of every story point value used by the team. So a group of 1s, group of 2s, group of 3s, etc. Now calculate the average cycle time for each group the story point has and create a chart showing story point value and its associated average cycle time. If you did this and you're using story points as an estimate of relative sizing, you would expect the average cycle time per story point to reflect the relationship between the story point values. But I bet that doesn't work, at least not to the degree you thought it should. So if you're doing that, what you're going to quickly see is that there are outliers. Now you can look closer at the data to see where the largest variations are in cycle time and smaller story point values. The majority of the teams I've worked with who do this exercise find that the biggest surprises were for smaller estimates, slam dunks that weren't. Rarely would teams consistently way off on their larger estimates. They knew they were big and discussed them or broke them down into smaller things before actually starting to work. Regardless of the technique you use for estimating accounting, gaining a team-level shared understanding of how size work is essential, right? So make sure the team doesn't skip over discussing the small items, because, oh, they're so small, nothing could possibly go wrong. Mark Twain had a quote. He says, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so that gets you in trouble." Right? So avoid that bottomless pit. A natural reaction when seeing these results to conclude that teams need more training and estimating, that they don't understand the proper use of story points. We've been conditioned over many years to think that this is the way. Estimating is expected, accepted method to create a schedule for any project manager, and anyone can teach you how to estimate and create a schedule. Don't fall into the trap. It's the same trap as it was before. The only reason story points are working is because you're doing differential with story points versus hours and trying to tie hours or time back to story points. If you can completely separate the two, it offsets uncertainty and it allows people to estimate size or scope of a project more accurately and allows any team member to work on it, which hedges your risk. In other words, if your least experienced person starts on the hardest items, your most experienced person is going to knock out all the easy items and meet the least experienced person where they are. If your least experienced person starts on the easy stuff and your most experienced person starts on the hard stuff, they should meet somewhere in the middle. And it should take roughly the same amount of time for them to reach that intersection, that join. The trick is to not take so many items into the sprint that you're overwhelmed. So if you're counting the number of stories you're taking into the sprint, using story points that never go above 8, making sure the team is breaking things down logically and disassociate completely from time, those are the keys that are going to help you become much better at estimation and help you succeed in your Agile implementation. That's going to do it. I hope this episode was useful to you. If you have a topic you want me to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care. Bye now.